My hand trembled as I dropped the phone onto the kitchen table. The sound of plastic against wood echoed through the silence of the house like a gunshot. Outside, the dry autumn leaves scraped against the pavement with that harsh sound that always reminded me of paper being crumpled. It was 9:15 in the morning on Tuesday, October 16th, 2023, and the world as I knew it had just shattered into 1,000 pieces. Sir, you need to get to the courthouse immediately. There's been a development. Those words kept replaying in my mind like a broken record. The social worker's voice had been clinical, professional, but I'd heard something underneath it, something that made my stomach twist into knots. Fear, maybe, or pity. I couldn't tell which was worse. I looked down at my hands. They were spotted with age, the veins prominent under thin skin that seemed almost translucent in the morning light streaming through the kitchen window. When had I gotten so old? 72 years, and I'd never felt it until this moment. Until the weight of what was about to happen pressed down on my shoulders like a physical thing. The adoption hearing was supposed to start at 11:30, 2 hours and 15 minutes from now. 2 hours and 15 minutes until my grandson, my sweet Tommy, would finally, legally, officially be mine. After 3 years of foster care, of court dates and home visits and paperwork that seemed endless, we were so close, so impossibly close. And now there's been a development. I pushed myself up from the chair, my knees protesting with that dull ache that had become my constant companion. The kitchen was exactly as I'd left it an hour ago. My coffee mug sat on the counter, still half full, the coffee long gone cold. Next to it, the tie I'd laid out for the hearing, navy blue with thin silver stripes. I'd bought it specifically for today, had wanted to look proper, respectable, like the kind of man who should be raising a child. The refrigerator hummed in the corner, and I could hear Mrs. Patterson's dog barking next door. That same yappy sound that drove me crazy every morning. Normal sounds, a normal morning. Except nothing about this morning was normal anymore. I walked to the window and looked out at the street. The Johnsons' house across the way still had their Halloween decorations up, even though the holiday was 2 weeks away. A plastic skeleton dangled from their porch, swaying slightly in the breeze. The Martinez family's lawn needed mowing. Their teenage son was supposed to do it every Saturday, but he never did. These details, I was focusing on these meaningless details, because if I didn't, I would have to think about what that phone call meant. What development could possibly happen 2 hours before an adoption hearing that had been scheduled for 6 months? My daughter-in-law, Rebecca. The social worker hadn't said her name, hadn't said anything specific, just that I needed to get there now. That there was something they'd found, something in her background check. But how was that possible? Rebecca had been out of the picture for 3 years. 3 years since that night when the police had shown up at my door at 2 in the morning, their faces grave, their voices soft with the kind of gentleness people use when they're about to destroy your life. Mr. Harrison, there's been an accident. Your son, I'm so sorry. 3 years since James died. 3 years since Rebecca, in her grief and her addiction and her rage, had looked at 4-year-old Tommy and said those words that still haunted my dreams. I can't do this. I don't want him. He looks too much like his father. 3 years since she'd signed away her parental rights without a second glance, walked out of that hospital room and disappeared into whatever hole she'd crawled out of. So what could they have possibly found now? What could matter now when she'd made her choice so long ago? I pressed my forehead against the cool glass of the window. My breath fogged it up, and I watched the condensation spread and fade, spread and fade. My heart was hammering in my chest, that irregular rhythm that my doctor kept warning me about. You need to manage your stress, Henry, he'd said at my last appointment. Your blood pressure is through the roof. At your age, you can't take these risks. But what choice did I have? Tommy needed me, had needed me every single day for the past 3 years. And I'd been there through the nightmares and the bedwetting and the panic attacks. Through the first day of kindergarten when he'd clung to my leg and begged me not to leave him. Through the therapy sessions and the difficult conversations about where Daddy went and why Mommy left. I'd been there for all of it. The clock on the wall ticked steadily. 9:20 now. I needed to move, needed to get dressed, get in the car, get to that courthouse. But my legs felt like they were made of lead. What if this was it? What if whatever they'd found meant I couldn't adopt him? What if after 3 years of being his everything, his whole world, they were going to take him away? I couldn't breathe. The kitchen suddenly felt too small, the walls pressing in. I gripped the edge of the counter, my knuckles going white. No, no, I wouldn't let that happen. Couldn't let that happen. I forced myself to take a breath. Then another. The panic attack, because that's what this was. I knew, even if I'd never had one before, began to recede slightly. The edges of my vision stopped going dark. Move, Henry. Just move. I walked back to the table and picked up my phone. My fingers, still trembling, fumbled with the screen. I needed to call someone, but who? My lawyer, Patricia. She'd meet me at the courthouse. She'd know what to do. She had to know what to do. But first, I needed to check on Tommy. He was still asleep upstairs in his room, the small bedroom at the end of the hall that used to be James's when he was a boy. I'd painted it blue for Tommy, let him pick out the dinosaur curtains in the rocket ship bedspread. His stuffed elephant, the one he'd had since he was a baby, the one he still couldn't sleep without, would be tucked under his arm. I'd told him yesterday that today was a special day, that after today we'd be a real family. Forever family, he'd called it, his 7-year-old vocabulary not quite able to grasp the concept of legal adoption, but understanding the important part, that I wasn't going anywhere, that he wasn't going anywhere. Forever and ever, Grandpa, he'd asked, his brown eyes, so much like James's eyes, wide and hopeful. Forever and ever, buddy, I'd promised. What if I'd just lied to him? What if forever was ending in 2 hours? The thought made bile rise in my throat. I gripped the counter harder, fighting the wave of nausea. The phone rang in my hand, making me jump. I looked at the screen. Patricia, my lawyer. She was calling me. I answered, bringing the phone to my ear with a hand that wouldn't stop shaking. Henry. Her voice was tight, controlled, but I could hear the strain underneath. Patricia was 60, had been practicing family law for 35 years, and I'd never heard her sound like this. I just got a call from the courthouse. We need to talk before you get there. What's happening? My voice came out hoarse, barely above a whisper. What did they find? There was a pause. Too long of a pause. I could hear her breathing on the other end of the line, could picture her in her office, probably standing by her window the way she did when she was thinking. Rebecca filed a motion late last night, she said finally. She's contesting the adoption. The words didn't make sense at first. They bounced around in my head like marbles in a tin can, unable to find purchase. What? How? She can't. She signed away her rights. 3 years ago, she signed them away. I know. Patricia's voice was steady now, falling into that professional tone she used in court. But apparently she's been in a rehabilitation program for the past 18 months. Got clean, got a job, got her life together, and her lawyer is arguing that she was in a state of diminished capacity when she signed the termination of parental rights, that she was grieving and suffering from addiction and wasn't capable of making that decision. That's insane. I was pacing now, back and forth across the kitchen floor, my slippers making soft shuffling sounds against the linoleum. She walked away from him. She looked at her child and said she didn't want him. I know, Henry. I know. But the law, it's complicated. If she can prove she's rehabilitated, if she can prove she's capable of being a parent now, and if the judge believes she wasn't in her right mind when she terminated her rights, no. The word came out sharp, definitive. No, absolutely not. She doesn't get to do this. She doesn't get to disappear for 3 years and then waltz back in and decide she wants him now. I understand how you feel. Do you? I stopped pacing, staring at nothing. Do you understand what this will do to him? He doesn't even remember her, Patricia. He calls me Papa. He has nightmares about being abandoned. Do you understand what it will do to him if they take him away from the only home he's known? Yes. Her voice was soft now, gentle. I do understand, which is why we need to fight this. But Henry, I need you to be prepared. The courts, they favor biological parents, especially mothers. And if she's really turned her life around, I don't care if she's Mother Teresa. My voice was rising now, anger mixing with the fear. She abandoned her child when he needed her most. That doesn't just go away because she decided to get sober. I agree with you, and we're going to make that argument. But I need you to come to the courthouse now. We need to go over everything before the hearing. And Henry, she paused again. They're going to want to interview Tommy. A child advocate will talk to him. Ask him questions about what he wants. My heart stopped. You want me to tell him? Before the hearing? You want me to tell him that his mother, who he doesn't even remember, wants to take him away? No, not yet. Let's see what happens in the hearing first. But you need to be prepared for the possibility that he'll find out today, that he'll have questions we need to be ready to answer. I looked at the ceiling, imagining Tommy asleep upstairs, peaceful, dreaming whatever 7-year-olds dream about. Superheroes, maybe, or dinosaurs. He loved dinosaurs. How could I possibly prepare him for this? How could I tell him that the stability we'd built together, the safety he'd finally found, might be ripped away? I'll be there in 30 minutes, I said. Henry, one more thing. Patricia's voice dropped even lower. The background check. They found something else, something that might complicate things for Rebecca's case. My pulse quickened. What? I can't talk about it over the phone. It's sensitive, but it might work in our favor. I'll explain when you get here. She hung up before I could ask anything else. I stood there in my kitchen, in the house where I'd raised my son, in the house where I was now raising my grandson, and felt the weight of 72 years pressing down on me like never before. But wait, how did we get here? How did a 72-year-old retired postal worker end up in this nightmare, fighting to keep his grandson from a woman who'd thrown him away like garbage? Let me tell you from the beginning. Let me tell you about the night everything changed 3 years ago when the doorbell rang at 2 in the morning and 2 police officers stood on my porch with the kind of news that splits your life into before and after. Let me tell you about Rebecca and James and the love story that turned into a tragedy. Let me tell you about Tommy and how a little boy with brown eyes and a gap-toothed smile became my entire world. Because to understand why this moment mattered so much, why the thought of losing him felt like dying, you need to understand how we got here. You need to understand what we survived to make it this far. 3 years earlier, July 22nd, 2020. The night was humid, the kind of oppressive summer heat that made the air feel thick enough to chew. I'd been asleep for maybe 3 hours when the doorbell rang. Not knocked, rang over and over, insistent, urgent. I jolted awake, my heart already racing with that primal knowledge that something was wrong. Nobody rings your doorbell at 2 in the morning with good news. My wife, Margaret, had died 4 years before that. Cancer, slow and cruel, had taken her piece by piece until there was nothing left but a shell that looked like the woman I'd loved for 43 years. The house still felt empty without her, even after all that time. Her absence was a presence in itself. So I was alone when I stumbled down the stairs, my bathrobe hastily thrown on, my feet bare against the cold hardwood floor. Through the frosted glass of the front door, I could see the distinctive shape of police uniforms. 2 of them, their flashlights created strange shadows. My first thought was that someone had broken into my car, or maybe the Johnsons had been robbed again. They'd had a break-in 6 months ago. I opened the door. The younger officer couldn't have been more than 25, had his hat in his hands. The older one, maybe 40, with gray in his hair and lines around his eyes, stood slightly behind him. Their faces were solemn. "Mr. Henry Harrison?" the younger one asked. "Yes." My voice came out scratchy from sleep. "What's wrong? What happened?" "Sir, is there somewhere we could sit down?" That's when I knew. That's when the bottom dropped out of my world. "It's James." I didn't phrase it as a question. I already knew. A father knows. "Sir, I'm very sorry. There was an accident tonight. A head-on collision on Route 42. Your son's vehicle was struck by a drunk driver. The paramedics did everything they could, but I'm so sorry. He didn't make it." The words came at me like blows. Each one hit, and then the next one came before I could process the first. Accident, Route 42. Drunk driver. Didn't make it. My son? My James? My boy? No, It was all I could say. Just that one word, over and over. No. No. The older officer stepped forward. Mr. Harrison, is there someone we can call, someone who can be with you? I couldn't breathe. The porch was spinning. James, my Jamie, who'd learned to ride a bike on this very sidewalk, who'd fallen out of that oak tree over there and broken his arm when he was 9, who'd brought Margaret flowers every Sunday until the day she died. James, who'd become a father himself 4 years ago, who'd looked at his newborn son with such wonder, such pure love, and whispered, "Dad, I finally understand. I finally understand how you felt when I was born." His wife, I managed to get the words out. Rebecca and their son, Tommy. Were they in the car? Please, God, no. Please don't let it be all of them. No, sir, your son was alone in the vehicle, but we need to notify his wife. Do you have her contact information? Relief and horror mixed together. Tommy was safe. But James was gone, and someone had to tell Rebecca that she was a widow at 28 years old. I'll do it. The words came out automatically. I'll tell her. Where is she? Where's Tommy? According to the address we have, they live on Maple Street. Number 427. We can drive you there if you'd like. I looked down at myself. Bathrobe, bare feet, probably looking like death itself. Give me 5 minutes. I don't remember getting dressed. Don't remember the police car ride to James and Rebecca's house. Though it must have happened because suddenly I was standing on their front porch, the younger officer beside me, his hand raised to knock. The house was dark. A modest 2-story rental with a small yard. James's truck, the blue Ford he was so proud of, sat in the driveway. Except it didn't, because James was dead and his truck was probably twisted metal on some highway right now. The officer knocked. We waited. He knocked. Again. A light flicked on upstairs. Then another, footsteps on stairs, quick and light. The door opened. Rebecca stood there in pajama pants and an old t-shirt, her blonde hair messy from sleep, confusion written all over her face. She was a small woman, barely 5'3", with delicate features that made her look younger than she was. Henry. She looked past me to the police officer. Her face went pale. What's wrong? Where's James? He said he was just running to the store for Tommy's medicine. The pharmacy downtown is 24 hours. He should have been back an hour ago. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. How do you tell someone this? How do you say the words that will destroy them? Rebecca, my voice cracked on her name. Honey, there was an accident. I watched her face change, watched understanding dawn in her eyes, followed immediately by denial. No, she shook her head. No, he's fine, he got held up somewhere. His phone probably died. That battery has been acting up. No, ma'am, the officer spoke gently. I'm so sorry, there was a collision. A drunk driver crossed the center line. Your husband, he didn't survive. She stared at him, at me, back at him. Her mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. Then her legs gave out. I caught her before she hit the ground, my old arms somehow finding the strength to hold her up. She was making sounds now, horrible sounds, animalistic sounds of pure grief. No, 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 no. Over and over. A chant, a prayer, a denial of reality. The officer was talking, saying something about grief counselors and funeral arrangements and death certificates, but I couldn't focus on the words. All I could focus on was the woman sobbing in my arms, her entire body shaking with the force of her grief. And then another sound, small, scared, confused. Mommy? We all turned. Tommy stood at the top of the stairs in his little pajamas, the ones with the trucks on them that James had bought him for his birthday. His stuffed elephant was clutched in one hand. His brown eyes, James's eyes, were wide and frightened. Mommy, why are you crying? Where's Daddy? Rebecca made a sound like she'd been stabbed. She pulled away from me, stumbling toward the stairs. But her legs wouldn't hold her. She collapsed again. This time on the floor, curling into herself. Tommy started crying now too, scared, not understanding, but knowing that something was terribly, terribly wrong. I climbed those stairs. Don't know how I did it with my bad knees and my heart breaking into pieces, but I did. I scooped Tommy up in my arms, held him close, felt his little body trembling against mine. "It's okay, buddy," I whispered into his hair. "Grandpa's here. Grandpa's got you." But it wasn't okay. Nothing was okay. And as I held my grandson and listened to my daughter-in-law's sobs echo through that house, I had no idea that this was just the beginning, that the worst was still to come. The funeral was on a Tuesday, July 28th, 2020. It rained. Margaret used to say that rain at funerals was a blessing, that it was heaven crying with you. I'd always thought that was sentimental nonsense. But standing at my son's grave, watching them lower his casket into the ground while rain soaked through my black suit, I understood what she meant. The rain gave you permission to have water on your face. Nobody had to know if it was rain or tears. Rebecca didn't come. She'd barely left her bedroom in the 6 days since that night. Her mother, Linda, had come down from Connecticut, had taken over the house, caring for Tommy, making funeral arrangements, dealing with all the horrible practical matters that death requires. I'd gone to see Rebecca the day before the funeral. Linda had let me in, her face drawn and exhausted. "She's not doing well, Henry." Linda had warned me. "She's barely eating, barely speaking. I'm worried about her." Rebecca's bedroom was dark, the curtains drawn. She lay in the bed, facing the wall, still in the same clothes she'd been wearing the night the police came. "Rebecca?" I'd approached quietly, sat down on the edge of the bed. "Honey, the funeral's tomorrow. You don't have to speak or anything. You just have to be there. For James, for Tommy." No response, not even a flicker of movement. "Tommy keeps asking where you are. He doesn't understand why you won't see him." That got a reaction. Her shoulders tensed, but still she didn't turn around. "I can't," she whispered, her voice hoarse from crying or not talking. I couldn't tell which. "I can't look at him." "What do you mean?" "He looks like James, his eyes, his smile, everything about him. And I can't, every time I see him, I see James. And I can't breathe. I can't do this." Fear, cold and sharp, had pierced through my grief. "Rebecca, you don't mean that." "My husband is dead, Henry. Dead. Because I asked him to go get Tommy's medicine. If I hadn't asked him, if I'd just waited until morning, he'd still be alive. This is my fault. All of this is my fault." "No, no, Rebecca, that's not true. A drunk driver did this, not you. You can't blame yourself." She'd finally turned over then, and I'd barely recognized her. Her face was swollen and blotchy, her eyes hollow. She looked like she'd aged 10 years in 6 days. "I killed my husband, and I can't be a mother to his child. I can't do it." I look at Tommy, and I want to scream. I want to run away and never come back. That's the grief talking. That's shock. "It'll get better. I promise you, it'll get better." But she'd just turned back to the wall. "Please leave, Henry. I can't. I just need to be alone." So she hadn't come to the funeral. Linda had made excuses, said she was too ill, too distraught. People nodded sympathetically. They understood, but I saw the looks, heard the whispers. A mother not coming to her husband's funeral, not being there for her child, it raised questions. Tommy stood between me and Linda during the service. He wore a little black suit that was slightly too big for him, bought hastily at a department store. He held my hand with one hand and clutched his elephant with the other. He'd asked me that morning while I was helping him get dressed, where Daddy was. "Daddy's in heaven now," I'd told him, kneeling down to his level with Grandma Margaret. "Remember how we talked about how Grandma Margaret went to heaven, but when is he coming back?" How do you explain death to a 4-year-old? How do you make them understand forever? "He's not coming back, buddy, but he's always going to be with you, in your heart, watching over you." Tommy had thought about this, his little face scrunched up in concentration, like a guardian angel. Yes, exactly like a guardian angel. Okay, he'd accepted it with the simple faith of a child. But then, "Grandpa, why won't Mommy talk to me? Is she mad at me?" "No, Tommy. No, she's not mad at you. She's just very sad right now. Sometimes when people are very sad, they need to be alone for a little while. But I'm sad too. I want Mommy." I'd hugged him then, this little boy who'd lost his father and was losing his mother, and I'd felt something shift inside me, a determination, a purpose. If Rebecca couldn't be there for him, then I would be, whatever it took. Now, at the cemetery, as they lowered my son into the ground, I felt Tommy's hand tighten in mine. Grandpa? His voice was so small. Is Daddy really down there? Just his body, buddy. His soul, the part that makes him Daddy, that's in heaven. Can we visit him here sometimes? My throat tightened. Yes. Whenever you want. The rain kept falling. People started drifting away, back to their cars, back to their lives. For them, this was a sad day, but life would go on. They'd go home, eat dinner, watch TV, go to work tomorrow. For us, everything had stopped. Linda touched my shoulder. I need to get back to the house, Rebecca. I don't want to leave her alone too long. I nodded. I'll bring Tommy. She hesitated. Henry, I need to talk to you about Rebecca, about what happens next. What do you mean? She glanced down at Tommy, then back at me. Not here, later, but I'm worried, really worried about her state of mind. That cold fear from yesterday returned. She's grieving. She'll get through it. I'm not sure she will. Linda's voice was barely above a whisper. Last night I found her in the bathroom with a bottle of pills. She said she was just taking something to help her sleep. But Henry, there were a lot of pills missing. The ground seemed to tilt under my feet. Did she? I don't think so. I think I got there in time. But I've been watching her constantly since then. I'm scared to even go to the bathroom. And I can't stay here forever. I have to go back to Connecticut in a few days. My own family needs me. What are you saying? Linda's eyes were filled with tears. I'm saying I don't think Rebecca should be alone with Tommy right now. I'm saying I think she might be a danger to herself. Maybe even to him. No, no, Rebecca would never hurt Tommy. Not intentionally. But in her state, Henry, she's not herself. And with me gone, with her alone in that house with a 4-year-old who needs constant attention and reminds her every second of what she lost, Linda trailed off. I think Tommy should stay with you, just for a little while, until she gets better. I looked down at Tommy, at his little hand in mine, at the confusion and sadness in his eyes. Okay, I heard myself say. He can stay with me. I had no idea that a little while would turn into forever. The first week Tommy stayed with me was chaos. A 4-year-old in a house that hadn't seen a child in 20 years, with an old man who'd forgotten what it was like to care for someone so small, so needy, so completely dependent. I'd had to baby-proof everything. Cover outlets, lock cabinets, move breakable things to high shelves. My quiet, orderly life turned upside down in a matter of days. Toys everywhere. Cartoon shows I didn't understand. Food he would and wouldn't eat. And the reasons changed daily. Bedtime routines that involved 3 stories, a glass of water, checking for monsters under the bed, and at least 15 minutes of just one more hug. I was exhausted. My back hurt from lifting him. My knees protested every time I got down on the floor to play cars or blocks. I went to bed at 8:30 because that was the only time I had to myself. And I was so tired I could barely keep my eyes open. But I did it. Every day I got up and I did it. Because what choice did I have? Rebecca still hadn't seen him. Linda had gone back to Connecticut after 2 weeks, and Rebecca had moved back in with her mother in Bridgeport. She'd left everything behind, the house, the furniture, all of Tommy's things, just packed a single suitcase and left. I'd gone to the house to collect Tommy's belongings, walking through those rooms, seeing James's shoes by the door, his coffee mug still in the sink from that last morning, his jacket hanging on the hook, had nearly broken me. In Tommy's room, I'd packed his clothes, his toys, his books, and I'd found things of James's too, a picture of him holding newborn Tommy in the hospital, both of them looking at each other with such love, a journal where he'd written letters to his son. Dear Tommy, today you took your first steps. Your mom and I cheered so loud we probably scared you, but we couldn't help it. You're growing up so fast, buddy. Sometimes I look at you and I can't believe you're mine, that I get to be your dad. I promise I'll always be here for you. Always, love, Dad. I'd sat on the floor of that room and cried like I hadn't cried since the funeral. For James, for the promises he couldn't keep, for the future that had been stolen. But then I'd dried my eyes, packed up those letters to give to Tommy when he was older, and brought everything back to my house. Our house now, mine and Tommy's. The nightmares started the third night. I woke to screaming, ran to his room, found him sitting up in bed, eyes wide and terrified, not quite awake but not asleep either. Daddy, Daddy, don't go. I'd held him, rocked him, whispered that it was okay, that he was safe, that Grandpa was here. It happened every night, sometimes twice a night, 3 times. He'd wake up screaming, and I'd run to him, my heart pounding, my body protesting, but I'd run. During the day, he was clingy, wouldn't let me out of his sight. If I went to the bathroom, he'd wait outside the door. If I went to get the mail, he'd stand at the window and watch. Don't leave me, Grandpa. Please don't leave me. I'm not leaving, buddy. I'm just getting the mail. Promise? I promise. But promises didn't mean much anymore, did they? His daddy had promised to always be there, and his daddy was gone. I called Rebecca. Once, twice, 3 times a day. She never answered. I left messages. Rebecca, Tommy needs you. He's asking for you. Please, just call him. Just let him hear your voice. Rebecca, I understand you're hurting, but he's hurting too. He needs his mother. Rebecca, please, I'm begging you. Don't do this to him. She never called back. Until one day, 6 weeks after the funeral, she did. I was making dinner, mac and cheese from a box, the only thing Tommy would reliably eat. He was in the living room watching cartoons. The phone rang. I answered without looking at the caller ID. Hello? Henry. Her voice was flat, dead. It's Rebecca. My heart jumped. Rebecca, thank God, we've been so worried. How are you? I need you to listen to me, and I need you not to argue. Something in her tone made me cold. What is it? I can't be Tommy's mother anymore. I can't do it. I've tried. I've thought about it every way I can, and I just... Rebecca, no. Don't say that. You're grieving. You're not thinking clearly. I've never been more clear in my life. Still that flat, emotionless voice. Every time I think about him, I see James. Every time I imagine holding him, I remember that it's my fault. James is dead. I can't live with that. I can't wake up every day and face the child who reminds me of what I destroyed. You didn't destroy anything. The drunk driver who hit James, he's the one responsible. I asked him to go out that night. Me, if I hadn't, he'd be alive. You can't know that. Rebecca, please. Think about Tommy. He's 4 years old. He needs his mother. He has you. You're better for him than I'll ever be. I'm signing over my parental rights, Henry. My lawyer is drawing up the papers. I'm terminating my rights and I want you to adopt him. The mac and cheese was bubbling over on the stove. I didn't move to turn it off. You don't mean that. I do, it's the only way. The only way I can live with myself is knowing he's somewhere safe, with someone who can actually love him, someone who doesn't look at him and see all their failures. Rebecca, listen to yourself. You love your son. I know you do. Not enough. Her voice cracked finally, emotion breaking through. I don't love him enough. A mother should be willing to die for her child, and all I want to do is run away from mine. What kind of mother does that make me? A mother who's been through hell. But you can get through this. Let me help you. Come back. See Tommy. Let him remind you why you need to fight. No, back to that flat tone. My decision is made. The papers will be sent to you next week. Sign them. Take care of him. Give him the life I can't. Rebecca, please. The line went dead. I stood there, phone in my hand, smoke rising from the burned mac and cheese, and felt the weight of what had just happened settle onto my shoulders. She was giving up on her son, giving up on herself. Grandpa? Something smells funny. Tommy appeared in the doorway, his elephant tucked under his arm, looking at me with those innocent eyes. It's okay, buddy. I just burned dinner. We'll order pizza. How about that? His face lit up. Pizza with pepperoni? With extra pepperoni. As I turned off the stove and threw away the ruined mac and cheese, I made a silent vow. I would be enough. Somehow I would be enough for this child. I would be the parent he needed, even though I was old and tired and grieving myself. Because nobody else was going to do it. The papers arrived 9 days later, September 15th, 2020. I remember the date because it was Tommy's first day of preschool, and I'd been so focused on getting him ready, making sure he had his lunchbox and his backpack and his new shoes, that I almost didn't notice the certified mail envelope. Tommy had been terrified of school, had clung to me at the classroom door, tears streaming down his face. "Don't leave me, Grandpa. Please don't leave me. I have to go, buddy, but I'll be back, I promise. In just a few hours, I'll be right back to pick you up. You promise you won't disappear like Daddy?" The teacher, Mrs. Chen, had seen this before. She'd gently taken Tommy's hand. "How about you show me your backpack, Tommy? Is that a dinosaur? I love dinosaurs. I love dinosaurs." He'd looked at me one more time, his face a mask of fear and uncertainty. I'd knelt down, my knees protesting. "I will be back, I promise. And you know what? You're going to have so much fun you won't even want to leave when I come get you." He didn't believe me. I could see it in his eyes. But he'd let Mrs. Chen lead him into the classroom. I'd walked back to my car with tears in my own eyes. How many more times would I have to watch him face his fear of abandonment? How many more times would he have to be brave when all he wanted to do was hide? The envelope was waiting when I got home. Termination of parental rights. The documents were labeled legal language, cold and clinical. Rebecca Marie Harrison, hereafter referred to as the respondent mother, hereby voluntarily and irrevocably terminates all parental rights, privileges, duties, and obligations to the minor child, Thomas James Harrison. I read through the pages. Rebecca had already signed. Her signature, usually so neat and careful, was shaky, barely legible. There was a separate document, a letter, handwritten. "Henry, I know you think I'm making a mistake. I know you think I'm a coward. Maybe I am. But I'm doing the only thing I can do to keep Tommy safe. Safe from me, from my grief, from my anger, from my addiction." Yes, I said addiction. I haven't told you this, but I've been using pills at first, to sleep, to numb the pain, then other things, worse things. I've tried to stop. I went to rehab for 30 days. I made it 3 days after I got out before I used again. I'm broken, Henry, in ways that can't be fixed, and I won't let Tommy grow up watching his mother destroy herself. I won't let him have memories of me high or drunk or worse. You're good with him. He trusts you. He feels safe with you. That's more than I could ever give him now. Please don't try to find me. Don't try to change my mind. Just love my son. Love him the way I can't anymore. Rebecca. My hands were shaking when I finished reading. Addiction, rehab, and I'd had no idea. How had I missed it? How had I not seen that she needed help? But then I'd been so focused on Tommy, on keeping him safe and fed and comforted, that I hadn't had time to think about Rebecca beyond frustrated phone calls. I should have done more, should have gone to Connecticut, should have dragged her back here if I had to. But it was too late now, wasn't it? I looked at the termination papers again. All they needed was my signature, my agreement to adopt Tommy, to become his legal parent, not just his guardian. It should have been an easy decision. I was already doing everything a parent would do. This would just make it official. But signing these papers meant accepting that Rebecca was really gone, that she'd really given up, that Tommy would grow up knowing his mother chose to leave him. How would I ever explain that to him? I left the papers on the kitchen table and went to pick Tommy up from school. He came running out when he saw me, his backpack bouncing, his face split in a huge smile. "Grandpa, Grandpa, I made a friend. His name is Marcus, and he likes dinosaurs too." I scooped him up, this little boy who'd been terrified just hours ago and was now bubbling with excitement. "That's wonderful, buddy. Tell me all about it." On the drive home, he chattered nonstop about his day, about Marcus and the toys they played with and the snack they had, and how Mrs. Chen taught them a song. He was happy. For the first time in months, he was genuinely happy. And I knew what I had to do. That night, after Tommy was asleep, I signed the papers. The adoption process took 3 years, 3 long years of home visits and background checks and court hearings and evaluations, 3 years of proving I was capable of raising a child at my age, of proving my health was good enough, my finances were stable enough, my home was safe enough. 3 years of Tommy calling me Papa, and me teaching him to ride a bike and helping him with homework and taking him to doctor's appointments and birthday parties. 3 years of becoming his father in every way that mattered, while we waited for the law to catch up. Patricia Mills became our lawyer, a sharp woman in her 60s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. She guided us through the maze of paperwork and requirements. The courts are going to look at everything, she warned me at our first meeting. Your age is going to be a concern. They're going to ask if you have the energy to raise a child until he's 18. They're going to want to know what happens if something happens to you. Then I'll show them. I'll show them I'm more than capable. And I did. Every home visit, I made sure they saw how well Tommy was doing, how he'd thrived under my care, how the nightmares had gradually faded, how he was doing well in school, making friends, learning to smile again. I enrolled him in soccer, took him to the park every Sunday, helped him learn to read, taught him to tie his shoes, to ride a bike, to throw a baseball. Did my back hurt? Yes. Did my knees ache? Constantly. Did I fall asleep in my chair during the evening news more often than not? Every single night. But I did it, because he needed me to. The social workers came every 3 months. Miss Davis, a young woman fresh out of college with a clipboard and a million questions. How is Tommy adjusting? Does he ask about his mother? How do you handle conversations about his father's death? What's your support system? Do you have a plan for child care if you become ill? I answered every question, showed her Tommy's bedroom, his artwork on the refrigerator, the growth chart on the wall. Introduced her to Mrs. Patterson next door, who'd become our emergency contact. Showed her the college fund I'd started, the life insurance policy that would take care of Tommy if something happened to me. Mr. Harrison, I have to say, you've done a remarkable job with Tommy, Miss Davis said, after her third visit. He's a happy, well-adjusted child. You should be proud. I am. He's my whole world. The courts will see that. I don't anticipate any problems with the adoption going through. But there were problems, delays, bureaucratic red tape, a judge who retired and had to be replaced, a backlog in the family court system. Months turned into a year turned into two, two turned into three. And through it all, I kept loving Tommy, kept being his papa, kept building our life together. He started first grade, lost his first tooth, learned to swim, developed an obsession with space that led to us building a model solar system that hung in his room. Papa, when I grow up, I'm going to be an astronaut, he told me one night as I tucked him in. I believe you will be, buddy. Will you come visit me in space? I smiled. If they let me, I'll be there. He was quiet for a moment. Then, Papa? Yeah? I'm glad I live with you. I don't remember Mommy very much anymore. Is that bad? My heart clenched. No, buddy, that's not bad. You were very young when she left. It's okay not to remember. Do you think she thinks about me? How do I answer that? How do I tell him the truth without hurting him? I think she thinks about you every day. I think she wishes things could have been different. But sometimes people are dealing with things that are too hard for them, and they have to make difficult choices. Like how you chose to take care of me. Exactly like that. Except it wasn't a hard choice for me. It was the easiest choice I ever made. He snuggled deeper into his blankets, his elephant tucked under his chin. I love you, Papa. I love you too, buddy. Forever and ever. Forever and ever, he repeated, his eyes already closing. I sat with him until he fell asleep, like I did every night. Watched his chest rise and fall with each breath. Marveled at how much he'd grown, how much stronger he'd become. And I prayed that the courts would hurry up, that we could make this official, that I could give him the security of knowing that no one could take him away from me. But I never imagined that anyone would try. Which brings us back to that morning. Tuesday, October 16th, 2023, the phone call, the panic, the fear. I'd gotten dressed quickly after hanging up with Patricia. My hands were still shaking as I knotted my tie. The navy blue one I'd bought for the adoption hearing. It felt like a mockery now. I had to tell Tommy something. Couldn't just leave without explanation, but what could I say? He was awake now. I could hear him moving around upstairs, probably getting dressed, probably wondering why I hadn't come to wake him yet like I did every morning. I climbed the stairs, each step an effort, found him in his room, already dressed in his school clothes, his hair sticking up in every direction. "Papa," he smiled when he saw me. "Today's the day, right? The adoption day?" God, his innocence, his trust. "Yeah, buddy, today's the day. But listen, something's come up, and I need to go to the courthouse early. Mrs. Patterson is going to come over and take you to school, okay?" His smile faltered. "Can't I come with you?" "Not right now, but I'll pick you up after school, and we'll celebrate. How does that sound?" "Okay." He didn't sound convinced. "Papa, you look worried. Is everything okay?" How did he read me so well? How did a 7-year-old see through me so easily? "Everything's fine, buddy. I'm just nervous. This is a big day." He came over and hugged me around the waist. "Don't be nervous. We're already forever family. This is just to make it official, right? That's what you said." "Right." I hugged him back, breathing in the little boy's smell of him. Shampoo and sleep and something indefinably him. Just to make it official. I called Mrs. Patterson, who agreed to come right over. Then I grabbed my keys, my wallet, the folder with all the adoption paperwork. "I love you, Tommy. Remember that, okay?" "I love you too, Papa. You're weird today." I managed to smile, just excited. "I'll see you this afternoon." The drive to the courthouse took 20 minutes. 20 minutes of my mind racing, trying to imagine every scenario. What could Rebecca have possibly done? What had they found? And more importantly, what would it mean for Tommy? The courthouse was a gray stone building downtown, old and imposing. I'd been here a dozen times over the past 3 years, for hearings and meetings and interviews. It had always felt like a place of hope, a place where our family would finally be official. Now it felt like a place of judgment. Patricia was waiting in the lobby. She stood when she saw me, her briefcase in one hand. "Henry." "Good. We need to talk before we go in." We found a quiet corner. She opened her briefcase and pulled out a stack of papers. "Okay, here's what we know. Rebecca filed her motion at 8:30 last night. Emergency request to contest the adoption based on new information about her rehabilitation and on claims of diminished capacity when she terminated her rights." "You said something about a background check. Something they found." Patricia nodded. "The court ran an updated background check on Rebecca as part of processing her motion. They found arrests. 3 of them, all in the past year." My stomach dropped. "For what?" "2 for possession, 1 for DUI. She violated probation on the first one, which is why there were multiple arrests. So she's been using again. She lied about being clean. It appears so. But Henry, here's the thing. Her lawyer is arguing that these arrests actually support her case, that she was suffering from untreated addiction when she terminated her rights, which means she wasn't capable of making that decision. They're using her continued struggles as evidence that she needs another chance. That's insane. How does continuing to use drugs prove she deserves custody? It doesn't, but it complicates things. The courts are sympathetic to addiction issues. If they believe she's actively seeking help now, if she can prove she's in treatment. Is she in treatment? Patricia hesitated. According to her lawyer, she entered a residential facility 2 months ago. She's still there. 2 months, she's been clean for 2 months, and she thinks that's enough to get her son back. Apparently her therapist has submitted a letter supporting her, saying she's made significant progress, that she's addressed the trauma underlying her addiction, that she's ready to be a mother again. I felt like I was going to be sick. What about Tommy? Doesn't anyone care what this will do to him? That's our strongest argument. That Tommy has been with you for 3 years, that he's thriving, that removing him from the only stable home he's known would be traumatic. But Henry, the courts really do favor biological parents. If Rebecca can prove she's fit now, if she can prove she wasn't fit when she signed the papers, then what? They give him back to her? Just like that? Not necessarily. At minimum, they might order supervised visitation. Let her rebuild a relationship with him. Then, depending on how that goes, possibly move to shared custody, eventually to her having primary custody. The courthouse lobby was spinning. I grabbed the back of a bench to steady myself. I can't let that happen. I won't let that happen. Patricia put a hand on my arm. We're going to fight this hard, but you need to be prepared for the possibility that we might not win, not today. This might turn into a longer battle. How much longer? Could be months, could be years. Depends on what the judge decides today. And in the meantime, while we're fighting, where does Tommy go? He stays with you. Rebecca's motion is just to contest the adoption, not for emergency custody. So unless something dramatically changes, Tommy stays in your care during this process. Small comfort, but comfort nonetheless. When do we go in? Patricia checked her watch. 15 minutes. The judge wants to hear arguments from both sides before deciding how to proceed. Rebecca will be here, via video from her treatment facility. The thought of seeing her, even on a screen, after 3 years of silence, made my anger surge. I want to see her, want to look her in the eye, and ask her how she can do this to him. Henry, I understand your anger, but in that courtroom, you need to stay calm. You need to show the judge that you're the stable, reliable presence in Tommy's life, that you put his needs above your emotions. Can you do that? I took a deep breath. Yes, I can do that. We walked toward the courtroom. Each step felt like walking to an execution. The courtroom was smaller than I'd expected. Wood paneling, rows of benches, the judge's bench at the front. A few other people were scattered around. Social workers, maybe, court staff. And there, at the plaintiff's table, was a man in his 40s wearing a expensive-looking suit. Rebecca's lawyer, presumably. We took our seats at the defendant's table. Patricia opened her briefcase again, organizing papers. All rise. The bailiff's voice rang out. We stood. Judge Martha Reynolds entered. She was in her late 50s, African-American, with an air of no-nonsense authority. She'd been the judge assigned to our adoption case from the beginning, had seen all the reports, all the evaluations. I thought that was a good thing, that she knew how well Tommy was doing with me. Now I wasn't sure. Please be seated. Judge Reynolds settled into her chair, put on her reading glasses, opened a folder. We're here today for the matter of Harrison versus Harrison, the petition to adopt by Henry James Harrison, and the motion to contest by Rebecca Marie Harrison. Is counsel ready? Yes, Your Honor. Patricia stood. Ready, Your Honor. Rebecca's lawyer stood as well. Very well. I've reviewed the motion filed last night by Miss Harrison's counsel. I've also reviewed the background check results. Before we proceed, I want to make something clear. This is not a custody hearing. This is a hearing to determine whether Miss Harrison's motion to contest the adoption has merit. If I determine it does, then we'll schedule a full evidentiary hearing. If I determine it doesn't, the adoption will proceed as scheduled. Understood? Yes, Your Honor, both lawyers said in unison. Good, Mr. Turner, you filed this motion. You may proceed. Rebecca's lawyer, Turner, stood again. He was smooth, polished, exactly the kind of lawyer who made me nervous. Thank you, Your Honor. As outlined in our motion, my client, Miss Rebecca Harrison, seeks to contest this adoption on the grounds that she was suffering from diminished capacity due to untreated grief and emerging substance abuse issues when she terminated her parental rights 3 years ago. She was not in a position to make such a life-altering decision, and therefore that termination should be set aside. Counsel, your client signed those papers voluntarily. She had legal representation at the time. She was informed of her rights. On what basis are you arguing diminished capacity? Your Honor, my client had just lost her husband in a traumatic accident. She was suffering from severe depression and PTSD. She had begun using prescription medication inappropriately, which was the beginning of her substance abuse issues. She was not in her right mind, and frankly, the system failed her. She should have been given mental health support, should have been evaluated before she was allowed to make such a permanent decision. Judge Reynolds frowned. Miss Harrison did receive counseling. It's in the record. 2 sessions, Your Honor. 2 sessions with a grief counselor which she attended while heavily medicated. That's not adequate mental health support for someone in her condition. The judge turned to Patricia. Counsel for Mr. Harrison, your response. Patricia stood. Your Honor, Miss Harrison's current struggles with addiction don't change the fact that she made a clear voluntary decision 3 years ago. She didn't just sign papers, she wrote a letter explaining her decision. She specifically stated that she wanted Mr. Harrison to adopt Tommy because she felt she couldn't be the mother he needed. That's not diminished capacity. That's a parent making a difficult but conscious choice. A choice she now regrets. Turner interjected. A choice she made while in crisis, which she wants the opportunity to rectify now that she's receiving proper treatment. Your Honor, may I? Patricia didn't wait for permission. The real issue here is what's best for the child. Tommy has been in Mr. Harrison's care for 3 years. He's thriving. He's happy. He's well adjusted. He's doing excellently in school. He calls Mr. Harrison Papa. This is the only stable home he remembers. To disrupt that now, to drag him into a custody battle, would be traumatic and harmful. Which is why my client is not seeking immediate custody, Turner said smoothly. She understands that she needs to rebuild her relationship with her son. She's asking for the opportunity to do that. To start with supervised visitation and gradually work toward shared custody as she proves her fitness. She abandoned him. The words came out of my mouth before I could stop them. She walked away from a 4-year-old child who'd just lost his father. For 3 years she hasn't called, hasn't visited, hasn't sent so much as a birthday card, and now that he's finally secure, finally happy, she wants to waltz back in and destroy that. Mr. Harrison. Judge Reynolds' voice was sharp. You'll have an opportunity to testify if we move forward. Right now you'll remain silent, or I'll have you removed from this courtroom. I apologize, Your Honor. My face burned. Patricia shot me a warning look. But I didn't care. Someone needed to say it. The judge was silent for a moment, looking at papers. Then she looked up. I want to see Miss Harrison. Mr. Turner, you said she's available via video? Yes, Your Honor. She's at the Meadowbrook Treatment Center in Hartford. They have facilities for video conferencing. Set it up. The next few minutes were a flurry of activity. A screen was wheeled in, a technician fiddled with connections, and then suddenly there she was. Rebecca. I barely recognized her. She'd gained weight, which was good. When she'd left, she'd been gaunt, hollow-cheeked. Now her face was fuller. Her hair was longer, pulled back in a ponytail. She wore a simple blue sweater. But her eyes were what stopped me. They weren't hollow anymore, they were clear, alert, and filled with something I hadn't seen in them in years. Hope. Miss Harrison, can you hear me? Judge Reynolds asked. Yes, Your Honor. I can hear you. Miss Harrison, I've read your motion. I want to hear from you directly. Why now? Why, after 3 years of no contact, are you seeking to contest this adoption? Rebecca took a deep breath. On the screen, I could see her hands twisting together in her lap. Your Honor, I made the worst mistake of my life when I walked away from my son. I was in so much pain, so much grief, that I couldn't see past it. I couldn't be the mother he needed because I couldn't even take care of myself. And I thought he'd be better off without me. And now? Now I've been sober for 2 months. I've been in intensive therapy for 6 months before that. I've worked through my grief, my guilt, my addiction, and I've realized that I gave up too easily, that my son deserved a mother who fought for him. And I didn't fight, I ran, and I'm so ashamed of that. But I want to make it right. I want the chance to be his mother again. Miss Harrison, you understand that your son has been living with his grandfather for 3 years, that he's formed strong attachments. Yes, Your Honor, and I'm not trying to take him away from Henry. Henry has done an amazing job with Tommy. I can see that from the reports. I'm so grateful to him for stepping up when I couldn't, but Tommy deserves to have his mother in his life too. I want to know my son. I want him to know me. I want to be part of his life. Judge Reynolds leaned back in her chair. Miss Harrison, I'm looking at your record. 3 arrests in the past year. That doesn't suggest someone who's got their life together. Rebecca's face crumpled slightly. I know. I relapsed. Multiple times. Getting clean isn't a straight line, but I'm here now, in a place where I'm getting real help, where I'm finally addressing the trauma that led to my addiction. I'm committed to this. To being better, to being the mother Tommy deserves. Your Honor, if I may, Turner stood. My client's honesty about her struggles shows her growth. She's not hiding from her mistakes. She's owning them and working to overcome them. That's exactly the kind of person who deserves a second chance. Patricia stood as well. Your Honor, addiction is a disease, and we don't dispute that. But Miss Harrison's history shows a pattern of instability. She's been clean for 2 months. 2 months out of 3 years. That's not enough time to prove lasting change. And in the meantime, Tommy has a stable, loving home. Why risk disrupting that? I couldn't take it anymore. I stood up, ignoring Patricia's hiss of warning. Your Honor, may I speak? Judge Reynolds looked at me over her glasses. Mr. Harrison, you're not sworn in? Then swear me in, please. I need to say this. She studied me for a long moment, then nodded. Bailiff, swear in Mr. Harrison. I placed my hand on the Bible, took the oath, sat in the witness chair. Mr. Harrison, what do you want to tell me? I looked at Rebecca on the screen. She was watching me, her eyes pleading. I want to tell you about the night Tommy's father died. About how Rebecca looked at her son and told me she couldn't stand to look at him because he reminded her of James. About how she didn't come to her own husband's funeral because she was too busy getting high. About how she sent me a letter saying she was broken in ways that couldn't be fixed. Mr. Harrison Turner started to object. Let him finish, Judge Reynolds said. I want to tell you about the first week Tommy lived with me. How he woke up screaming every night. How he thought every time I left the room I wasn't coming back. How he'd stand at the window and cry for his mommy. And I had to explain to a 4-year-old that his mommy wasn't coming back because she didn't want him anymore. My voice was shaking now. I couldn't look at the screen anymore, couldn't look at Rebecca. I want to tell you about 3 years of nightmares and therapy, and slowly, so slowly, building his trust again, teaching him that adults don't always leave, that home is safe, that he's loved. 3 years of being his entire world, because I was all he had left. I finally looked up at the judge, and now she wants to come back. After 2 months of being clean, 2 months. And I'm supposed to just let her into his life? Supposed to risk everything we built, all the security he's finally found, on the chance that this time she'll stick around. Mr. Harrison, I understand your concerns. Do you? I couldn't help the anger in my voice. Do you understand what it's like to watch a child piece himself back together? To see him finally smile again without that shadow of fear behind it? To hear him call you Papa and know that he trusts you completely, and then to have someone threaten to take that away. Nobody's threatening to take Tommy away from you. Judge Reynolds said firmly, what we're discussing is whether Miss Harrison has grounds to contest the adoption, whether she deserves the chance to be part of her son's life again. She walked away from that chance. She made her choice. People can change, Mr. Harrison. People can heal. Not in 2 months, not from what she's been through. On the screen, Rebecca was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. Henry, her voice came through the speakers, soft and broken. Henry, please. I know I don't deserve another chance. I know I hurt Tommy in ways I can never fully make up for, but he's my son, and I'm begging you, please don't take away my chance to know him. I looked at her, really looked at her, and for a moment I saw the woman who'd married my son. The woman who'd held newborn Tommy with such wonder. The woman who'd been a good mother once, before tragedy destroyed her. But I also saw the woman who'd abandoned her child, who'd chosen drugs over her son, who'd caused him so much pain. You took away your own chance, I said quietly. 3 years ago you took it away. And I've spent every day since then picking up the pieces. Judge Reynolds held up a hand. All right, I've heard enough for now. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm ordering an emergency psychological evaluation of Miss Harrison to assess her current mental state and her fitness as a parent. I'm ordering an updated home study for both parties. And I'm appointing a guardian ad litem to represent Tommy's interests and to interview him about his wishes. My heart sank. You're not going forward with the adoption today. No, Mr. Harrison, I'm not. Not until I have more information. This hearing is continued for 30 days. In the meantime, Tommy remains in your custody. Miss Harrison, you are not to have any contact with the child until I've reviewed the evaluations, and we've had a full hearing. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor. Rebecca's voice was small. Good. We'll reconvene on November 16th. Counsel, you'll have all reports filed no later than 1 week before that date. This hearing is adjourned. The gavel came down. It was over, but it wasn't over at all. I don't remember leaving the courtroom. Don't remember the drive home. I must have functioned on autopilot because suddenly I was sitting in my driveway, my hands still gripping the steering wheel, staring at nothing. 30 days of uncertainty, of evaluations and interviews, of Tommy being questioned about things he shouldn't have to think about. And at the end of it, what? Would they let the adoption go through, or would they give Rebecca visitation, shared custody? Would they take him away from me? I couldn't breathe. The car was suddenly too small, the air too thick. I fumbled with the door, practically fell out onto the driveway. Mrs. Patterson was in her yard. She hurried over when she saw me. Henry? Are you all right? You look terrible. The hearing. It didn't happen. She's contesting it. Rebecca's contesting the adoption. Her hand flew to her mouth. Oh, Henry. Oh, no. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to tell Tommy. Does he need to know right now? I mean, you said the adoption just got delayed, right? He stays with you? For now, but they're going to interview him. Ask him questions. He'll figure out something's wrong. Mrs. Patterson put her hand on my arm. Then you tell him the truth. Age-appropriate truth. You've always been honest with him. Don't stop now. She was right. I knew she was right. But how do you tell a 7-year-old that his mother, who he barely remembers, wants to come back into his life? How do you explain that without scaring him? I went inside. The house felt different, like something had shifted, like the safety we'd built here was suddenly fragile. I had 3 hours before I needed to pick Tommy up from school, 3 hours to figure out what to say. I made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, stared at the phone. I should call someone. My sister, maybe. She lived in Florida, but we talked every week. She'd want to know, but I couldn't seem to make myself move. The house was so quiet. Usually I loved the quiet, but right now it felt oppressive, like it was waiting for something to break. The phone rang. I jumped, nearly knocked over my coffee. It was Patricia. Henry, how are you holding up? I've been better. I know this isn't what we wanted, but it's not the worst outcome. Tommy stays with you, and we have time to prepare our case. What case? What more can we possibly say that we haven't already said? We need to show that Rebecca's sobriety is too new, too fragile, that she hasn't addressed the underlying issues that caused her to abandon Tommy. We need expert testimony about the psychological harm that could come from reintroducing her into his life right now. So we need to prove she's still broken. Patricia was quiet for a moment. We need to prove that Tommy's best interests are served by staying with you. That's not the same thing. Isn't it? Henry, I know you're angry, but we need to be strategic here. The guardian ad litem is going to interview Tommy, probably sometime in the next week. You need to prepare him for that, and you need to make sure he understands that he can be honest, that he can say what he really feels. You want me to coach him? No, God, no. That would backfire spectacularly. I want you to let him know that someone's going to ask him some questions about his life, about his family, and that he should answer truthfully. That's all. And if he says he wants to meet his mother, then that's what he feels, and we deal with it. But Henry, from everything I know about Tommy, from all the reports and evaluations, he's happy with you. He feels safe with you. That's going to come through. Unless Rebecca charms him, unless she shows up and plays the victim and he feels sorry for her. She's not allowed contact yet, not until after the evaluations. But eventually she'll meet him. And then what? Patricia sighed. Then we hope that 3 years of your love and care means more than biology. We hung up shortly after. I still had 2 hours before I needed to get Tommy. I spent those 2 hours sitting at that table, drinking coffee, thinking about everything that could go wrong. And when it was finally time to go, I felt like I'd aged 10 years. Tommy came bounding out of school like always, his backpack bigger than he was, his smile bright. Papa, guess what? I got 100 on my spelling test. That's great, buddy. I hugged him. I'm so proud of you. So can we celebrate? You said we'd celebrate today. Can we get ice cream? Ice cream, he wanted ice cream to celebrate an adoption that hadn't happened. Sure, buddy. Ice cream sounds perfect. We drove to Scoops, the little ice cream place downtown that Tommy loved. He got his usual chocolate with rainbow sprinkles. I got vanilla because I didn't really want anything, but I needed to keep up appearances. We sat at one of the little tables outside. Tommy swung his legs as he ate, chattering about his day, about the game they played at recess, about how Marcus brought his new action figure for show and tell. Normal things, a normal day. Except nothing was normal anymore. Papa, you're doing it again. Doing what? Looking worried. You did it this morning too. Are you okay? I set down my ice cream. Tommy, can I talk to you about something? His face got serious immediately. Am I in trouble? No, buddy, not at all. It's about today. About the adoption hearing. Oh yeah, did it happen? Are we official now? Not yet. There was a delay. We have to go back to court in a few weeks. Oh, he processed this. Took another bite of ice cream. So we're not forever family yet? We're always forever family, Tommy. The court stuff is just paperwork. It doesn't change how we feel about each other. Then why do you look so sad? How did he always see through me? Because something came up today. Something I need to tell you about. And I want you to know that no matter what, you're safe. You're staying here with me. That's not changing, okay? Now he looks scared. Papa, what's wrong? Your mom, Rebecca. She wants to be part of your life again. Tommy stared at me. My mom? Yes. But she left. You said she left because she was too sad after Daddy died. She did, and she's been gone for a long time. But now she's feeling better, and she wants to get to know you. Does she want me to come live with her? The fear in his voice broke my heart. No, buddy, no. You're staying with me. That's not changing. She wants to maybe visit with you sometimes, if you want to. If I want to? He looked confused. Do I have to? No, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. But someone, a nice person called a guardian, is going to come talk to you, ask you questions about your life, about how you feel, and you can tell them the truth. Whatever that truth is. What if I don't remember her? That's okay. You were very young when she left. It's okay not to remember. What if I don't want to see her? Then you tell the guardian that, and we'll figure it out. He was quiet for a long time, pushing his ice cream around with his spoon. Papa, am I going to have to leave you? No, absolutely not. I promise you, buddy, you're staying with me. Forever and ever? Forever and ever. He seemed to relax a little. Okay, I trust you. Those 3 words, I trust you. They carried so much weight. He trusted me, and I'd just promised him something I wasn't sure I could guarantee. God, please let me be able to keep this promise. The guardian ad litem came 3 days later, Friday, October 19th, 2023. Her name was Dr. Sarah Chen, and she was young, maybe 35, with kind eyes and a gentle manner. She met with me first, in my living room, while Tommy was at school. Mr. Harrison, my role is to represent Tommy's best interests. Not yours, not his mother's, just his. So I need you to understand that whatever I recommend to the judge will be based solely on what I think is best for him. I understand. Good. Tell me about Tommy. How's he doing? So I told her about the nightmares that had finally stopped, about his progress in school, about his friends, his interests, his personality, about how he'd gone from a terrified, traumatized 4-year-old to a happy, confident 7-year-old. He sounds like he's thriving, Dr. Chen said, taking notes. He is, because he's finally secure. He knows he's loved. He knows he's not going anywhere. And if his mother re-entered his life, how do you think he'd handle that? Honestly, I think it would devastate him. He doesn't remember her. To him, she's a stranger who abandoned him. Why would he want a relationship with her? Children often want relationships with their biological parents, even when those parents have hurt them. It's a basic need to know where you come from. She had 3 years to meet that need. She chose not to. People change, Mr. Harrison. People heal. So everyone keeps telling me, but what about Tommy? Does he have to be the experiment to find out if she's really changed? Dr. Chen didn't answer that, just made more notes. I'd like to talk to Tommy now, if that's all right. Of course, I'll pick him up from school and bring him home. Actually, I'd prefer to talk to him at school, in a neutral environment, with your permission, of course. My stomach twisted, but I nodded. Okay, when? This afternoon. I've already cleared it with the school. They'll pull him from class during a free period. It won't be disruptive. What are you going to ask him? I'm going to ask him about his life. About you? About his memories of his father. About his mother. About how he feels about the possibility of seeing her. He's 7 years old. He shouldn't have to make these decisions. He's not making decisions. He's sharing his feelings. There's a difference. After she left, I sat in that living room and felt helpless. Completely helpless. Tommy's fate was in the hands of strangers now. A judge who didn't know him. A guardian who'd spend maybe an hour with him total. A mother who'd been absent for 3 years. And I, who'd raised him, loved him, been there for every moment of the past 3 years, had no control over any of it. When I picked Tommy up from school that afternoon, he was quiet. How was your day, buddy? Okay. A lady came to talk to me today. Dr. Chen? Yeah, she asked me a lot of questions. What kind of questions? About you. About if I'm happy. About if I remember my mom. He was looking out the window, not at me. Papa, I told her the truth. Was that okay? Of course it was okay. What did you tell her? I told her I love living with you, that you make me breakfast and help me with homework and read me stories, that you came to my soccer game, even though it was raining and your knees hurt, that you are the best papa in the whole world. My throat tightened. What did you tell her about your mom? I told her I don't really remember her, that when I tried to think about her, I just see pictures from when I was a baby. Is that bad? No, buddy, that's not bad at all. She asked if I wanted to meet her. My mom, I mean. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. What did you say? I said I don't know. Is that okay? I really don't know. Does that make you sad? No, Tommy. No, it doesn't make me sad. It's okay to not know how you feel. These are big, confusing things. Dr. Chen said my mom wants to see me, that she's been sick but she's getting better. Is that true? Yes, it's true. What kind of sick? How do you explain addiction to a 7-year-old? She was sad sick. After your daddy died, she was so sad that it made her sick in other ways. But she's been getting help and she's feeling better now. If she's feeling better, does that mean she wants me back? There it was. The fear underneath everything. Tommy, look at me. He turned in his seat, his brown eyes wide and worried. You are not going back to her. You are staying with me. That is not up for debate. That is not changing. Do you understand me? But what if the judge says I have to? The judge isn't going to say that, because I'm not going to let it happen. Promise? God help me. Promise. We drove the rest of the way in silence. When we got home, Tommy went straight to his room without being asked. I heard the door close softly. An hour later, I went to check on him. He was lying on his bed, staring at the ceiling, his elephant clutched to his chest. Hey, buddy, you okay? Papa, can I ask you something? Anything. Why did she leave? Really, not the sad, sick story, the real reason. I sat down on the edge of his bed. He deserved the truth. Age-appropriate truth, but truth nonetheless. When your daddy died, your mom was in a lot of pain, And sometimes when people are in that much pain, they make decisions that don't make sense. She thought you'd be better off without her. She thought she couldn't be a good mom to you while she was so sad. But she was wrong. Yes, she was wrong. But at the time, she really believed it. Do you think she loves me? The question cut through me. Yes, buddy, I think she does, in her own way. Then why didn't she call? Why didn't she come visit? Even once? I don't know. I think she was too scared, too ashamed. Sometimes adults make things more complicated than they need to be. He was quiet for a moment. Then, I don't think I want to meet her. Okay. Is that mean? Is it mean to not want to meet your own mom? No, Tommy, it's not mean. It's how you feel. And your feelings are always okay. What if Dr. Chen tells the judge I should meet her anyway? Then we'll deal with it. Together. But nobody's going to force you to do anything, okay? I won't let that happen. He rolled over, buried his face in my shoulder. I held him, this little boy who carried so much weight. I just want things to stay the same, he whispered. I like how we are. Just you and me. Me too, buddy. Me too. The evaluation reports came back 2 weeks later, November 2nd, 2023. Patricia called me at 7 in the morning. Henry, the reports are in. I'm coming over. We need to talk. She arrived 30 minutes later with a stack of papers. We sat at my kitchen table. Tommy was still asleep upstairs. Okay, let's start with the good news. Dr. Chen's report is favorable to you. She recommends that Tommy remain in your care. She notes his strong attachment to you, his stability, his progress. She says removing him from your home would be detrimental. Relief flooded through me. That's good. That's really good. It is, but there's more. She also recommends that Rebecca be allowed supervised visitation. She says that Tommy should have the opportunity to know his biological mother, with appropriate safeguards in place. The relief turned to anger. He said he doesn't want to meet her. He said he doesn't know if he wants to meet her. There's a difference. Dr. Chen's assessment is that he's ambivalent, which is understandable, but she thinks that meeting Rebecca in a controlled setting might actually be beneficial. Give him a chance to see that she's real, not just this scary figure from his past. Or it could traumatize him all over again. That's why it would be supervised. You'd be there, in a neutral location for short periods at first. I put my head in my hands. What about Rebecca's evaluation? What does that say? Patricia flipped through pages. It's mixed. The psychologist notes that she's made significant progress, that she's been sober for 3 months now, attending daily therapy, participating actively in her treatment program. She shows insight into her past mistakes. She's taking responsibility for her actions. But the psychologist also notes that 3 months is a very short time in recovery, that addiction is a chronic condition with high rates of relapse, that while Rebecca is sincere in her current commitment to sobriety, there's no way to predict long-term success. So basically, she might be better, but she also might not be. Pretty much. And based on that, the court wants to let her back into Tommy's life. The court wants to do what's best for Tommy. And according to these evaluations, what's best might be allowing him to have a relationship with both his mother and his grandfather. She's going to break his heart. Again. And I'm supposed to just stand there and watch it happen? Patricia reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Henry, I know this is hard, but we have to think strategically. If we fight against any contact, we look unreasonable, like we're putting our feelings ahead of Tommy's needs. But if we agree to supervised visitation, we look like we're trying to do what's best for him. We look cooperative. You want me to agree to this? I want you to not fight it. There's a difference. Let the judge order it. Don't oppose it. That way, when things go south, and they might, we can point to the fact that we tried, that we gave Rebecca a chance, and she blew it. You're using Tommy as bait. I'm using reality as evidence. Henry, if Rebecca is still unstable, it's going to show, and it's better for it to show now, in supervised visits than later when she might have more rights. I hated this, hated all of it, but I could see her logic. What happens at the hearing? The hearing is in 2 weeks. The judge will review these reports. She'll likely order a slow reintroduction plan, maybe one supervised visit per week for an hour in a neutral location like a family center. After a few months, if things are going well, she might increase the time, eventually possibly move to unsupervised visits, and the adoption probably gets put on hold until we see how the visitation goes. The judge won't finalize the adoption while Rebecca is actively trying to rebuild her relationship with Tommy. How long? Could be 6 months. Could be a year. Could be longer. A year, a year of uncertainty. A year of supervised visits and reports and evaluations. A year of watching Rebecca try to win back a son who didn't even know her. A year of Tommy being confused and scared and not understanding why his life was suddenly so complicated. I can't do this, Patricia. I can't put him through this. You don't have a choice. Unless you want to run, take Tommy and disappear. But that would make you a fugitive and him a kidnapped victim, and you'd lose any chance of ever having legal custody. She was right. I knew she was right. But God, it hurt to accept it. Okay, okay, we'll do it your way. We'll cooperate. We'll let Rebecca have her visits. And we'll pray that she proves herself unfit before she does too much damage. Patricia stood to leave. At the door, she turned back. Henry, one more thing. You need to prepare Tommy for this. Tell him what's coming. Don't let it blindside him. After she left, I sat at that table for a long time. Upstairs, I heard Tommy's alarm go off, heard him moving around, getting dressed for school. In a few minutes, he'd come downstairs expecting breakfast and normalcy and safety, and I'd have to tell him that his world was about to change again. I waited until after school. Coward's way, maybe, but I wanted him to have one more normal day. We had dinner, spaghetti, his favorite. He told me about his day, about the art project they were doing in class. He was making a volcano and was very excited about it. Papa, do we have baking soda? Mrs. Rodriguez said we need baking soda to make it erupt. I'll check. If we don't, we'll get some this weekend. Cool, Marcus said his exploded everywhere last year and it was awesome. I smiled. Just make sure yours explodes at school, not in our kitchen. He laughed. God, I loved his laugh. After dinner, after homework, after his bath, I sat him down in the living room. Buddy, I need to talk to you about something important. The smile faded from his face. Is it about my mom? Yes. How did you know? You get that look, like you're trying to figure out how to tell me something bad. Smart kid. Too smart. It's not bad exactly. It's just change, and I know you don't like change. What kind of change? The judge looked at all the reports from Dr. Chen and the other doctors, and she thinks it might be good for you to meet your mom in a supervised visit. That means I'd be there with you, and it would be in a special place where kids meet with parents. Do I have to? Legally, yes. The judge is going to order it. But Tommy, I'll be right there with you the whole time. And if you're uncomfortable, if you want to leave, we leave. No questions asked. When? We don't know yet. After the court hearing in 2 weeks, they'll set up a schedule. How many times? Probably once a week, for an hour. He processed this, his face scrunched up in thought. What if I don't like her? Then you don't like her. You don't have to like her. You don't have to love her. You just have to give her a chance. What if she doesn't like me? My heart broke. Oh, buddy, she's going to love you. How could she not? You're amazing. Then why did she leave? The question I'd been dreading. I think she left because she didn't love herself. And when you don't love yourself, it's really hard to love anyone else, even your own child. But she's been working on that, working on loving herself again. And that's why she wants to try now. Do you think she's really better? Or do you think she's going to leave again? Jesus, when did he get so perceptive? I honestly don't know, buddy. I hope she's better, for her sake and for yours. But I can't promise you she won't leave again. What I can promise is that I'll never leave. No matter what happens with your mom, I'm here, always. Forever and ever, forever and ever. He climbed into my lap, something he rarely did anymore, said he was too big for. But right now he needed it, and so did I. Papa, I'm scared. I know. Me too. Really? You're scared too? Really? Because I love you so much, and I don't want you to get hurt. Then can't we just say no? Can't we just tell the judge we don't want to do this? We could, but then the judge might think we're being unfair, and that might make things worse. Sometimes the brave thing is to do the thing that scares you, even if you don't want to, especially if you don't want to. He was quiet for a long time, his head resting on my chest. I could feel his heartbeat fast and anxious. Okay, he said finally. I'll try, but you have to be there, the whole time. I will be, I promise. And if it's terrible, we never have to do it again. I wanted to say yes, wanted to promise him that, but I couldn't lie to him. If it's terrible, we'll talk to Dr. Chen and Patricia and the judge, and we'll figure out what to do. But, buddy, we have to give it a real chance. Not just one visit, okay? How many? I don't know. A few, at least. He sighed, the weight of the world on his small shoulders. This is hard. I know it is. But you're brave. You're so brave, and we're going to get through this together. Together, together. The hearing on November 16th was shorter than the first one. Judge Reynolds reviewed the reports, asked a few questions, then delivered her ruling. Based on the recommendations of Dr. Chen and the psychological evaluations, I'm ordering supervised visitation between Rebecca Harrison and Thomas Harrison. Visits will be once per week for 1 hour at the Family Connection Center. Mr. Henry Harrison must be present for all visits. Visits will be supervised by a trained professional who will submit monthly reports to the court. Additionally, the adoption petition is continued pending the success of the visitation period. We'll reconvene in 6 months to review progress. If visitation is going well and Miss Harrison maintains her sobriety, we'll discuss next steps at that time. Patricia had been right. 6 months, minimum. Miss Harrison. The judge looked at the screen, where Rebecca was again appearing from her treatment center. This is your chance. Don't waste it. 1 relapse, 1 violation of the court's orders, and we're done. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Thank you so much. She was crying. Rebecca was crying tears of gratitude. And I felt nothing but dread. The first visit was scheduled for November 23, 2023, the day before Thanksgiving. The timing seemed cruel, like the universe was mocking us. Tomorrow we were supposed to be celebrating gratitude and family. Today we were meeting with the woman who'd torn our family apart. The Family Connection Center was a low brick building on the edge of town. Inside, it was decorated to be child-friendly. Bright colors, toys scattered around, murals on the walls. But it felt sterile to me. Artificial, like a stage set pretending to be a home. Tommy held my hand so tight I thought my fingers might break. He hadn't said a word the entire drive over. A woman in her 40s, with kind eyes and a gentle smile, greeted us at the door. I'm Martha. I'll be supervising your visits. You must be Tommy. Tommy hid behind me. It's okay, buddy. Martha's here to make sure everything goes smoothly. Martha smiled at him. We have a really nice room set up for you. There are some toys and games. Why don't we go check it out? She led us down a hallway to a room that was clearly designed to look comfortable. A couch, some chairs, a coffee table with coloring books and crayons. Shelves of toys along one wall. Your mom will be here in about 5 minutes, Martha said. She's just finishing up some paperwork. Tommy, while we wait, do you want to look at the toys? Tommy shook his head, pressed closer to me. I sat down on the couch. Tommy climbed into my lap, something he definitely was too big for, but I didn't care. It's going to be okay, I whispered into his hair. Remember, we're just going to say hi. See how it goes. If you want to leave, we leave. I want to leave now. Let's just meet her. Just for a few minutes. Can you be brave for a few minutes? He didn't answer. The door opened. Rebecca walked in. She looked different than she had on the screen. Smaller, somehow. More real. She wore jeans and a simple gray sweater. Her hair was pulled back. No makeup. She looked nervous. Her eyes went immediately to Tommy, and I saw her face crumple with emotion. Hi, Tommy. Her voice was soft, shaking. I'm your mom. Tommy buried his face in my shoulder. Rebecca's eyes met mine over his head. I saw pleading in them. Help me, tell him it's okay. But I couldn't. I sat there holding my grandson and said nothing. Martha stepped in. Why don't we all sit down? Rebecca, you can sit there. She pointed to a chair across from the couch. Tommy, it's okay to be nervous. This is a big moment. Rebecca sat down, her hands twisted in her lap. She kept staring at Tommy, drinking him in. You've gotten so big, she said, her voice thick with tears. The last time I saw you, you were barely up to my waist. Now look at you. You're a whole person. Tommy still wouldn't look at her. Tommy, honey, I know this is scary. I know you don't remember me, but I want you to know that I think about you every single day, that I love you so much, and I'm so sorry that I left. At that, Tommy lifted his head slightly. If you're sorry, why did you leave? The question, direct and painful, hung in the air. Rebecca's tears spilled over. Because I was sick, really sick, and I thought you'd be better off without me. I thought I was protecting you. But I was wrong, so wrong, and I've regretted it every day since. Grandpa Henry takes good care of me. I know he does. I can see that. You look happy and healthy. He's done an amazing job. We're a forever family. The words, said with such certainty, hit Rebecca like a physical blow. I saw her flinch. I'm glad you feel safe with him. That's really good. Silence, awkward and heavy. Martha tried to help. Tommy, your mom brought some pictures. Would you like to see them? Rebecca pulled out a small photo album. These are pictures of you when you were little, with your dad and me. I thought maybe you'd like to see them. Tommy hesitated, then slowly climbed down from my lap, approached the coffee table where Rebecca had set the album. But he didn't get close to her, kept the table between them. He opened the album, and I watched his face change as he looked at the pictures. Pictures of himself as a baby, a toddler. Pictures of James holding him. Pictures of a family that once existed. That's my daddy. Yes, Rebecca's voice broke. That's your daddy. He loved you so much. I remember him a little bit. He used to make funny voices when he read to me. He did. He was so silly. He always made you laugh. Tommy touched a picture of all three of them, James and Rebecca and baby Tommy at a park somewhere. Were we happy? Rebecca sobbed, actually sobbed, yes. Yes, we were so happy. You were the best thing that ever happened to us. Then why did it end? Such simple questions, such complicated answers. Because sometimes bad things happen that we can't control. Your daddy's accident, that wasn't anyone's fault. It just happened. And it broke something in me, but I'm trying to fix it now. I'm trying to be better. Tommy looked at her for the first time, really looked at her. Are you fixed now? I'm getting there. I'm trying really hard. Papa says trying isn't the same as doing. Rebecca glanced at me. I shrugged. I'd said that when Tommy didn't want to do his homework and said he'd try to do it later. Your papa's right. But sometimes trying is all we can do, and then we keep trying until we succeed. Tommy studied her, 7 years old, and already so wary, so protective of himself. Can I ask you something? Anything? Why are you here, really? Because you're my son, and I miss you, and I want to know you. But you didn't want me before. I was too sick to want anything. I could barely take care of myself. How could I take care of you? So now that you're better, you want me back. It wasn't a question. It was an accusation. I want to be part of your life. That doesn't mean taking you away from Papa Henry. It means being your mom again. If you'll let me. Tommy looked back at the photo album, touched the pictures gently. I need to think about it. And with that, he came back to me, climbed back into my lap, and didn't look at Rebecca again for the rest of the hour. The visits continued. Every Thursday at 3 o'clock, Martha supervising, me sitting on that couch with Tommy in my lap or pressed against my side. Rebecca trying so hard, bringing pictures, telling stories about James, asking Tommy about school and his friends and his interests. Tommy responding in monosyllables most of the time, occasionally asking a question, occasionally showing a flash of interest, but always guarded, always ready to retreat back to me. By the third visit, December 7th, Tommy started to warm up slightly. Not much, but he agreed to sit at the table and color with Rebecca. Sat across from her instead of in my lap. Do you like dinosaurs? Rebecca asked, watching him color a T-Rex. Yeah, they're my favorite. Your dad loved dinosaurs too when he was little. We went to a natural history museum once before you were born, and he spent hours in the dinosaur exhibit. He was like a kid again. Tommy looked up. Really? Really, he knew all their names, could pronounce them perfectly. It was adorable. Papa took me to a museum too. We saw fossils. That sounds amazing. What was your favorite? And Tommy started talking. Actually talking about the Triceratops skeleton, about the interactive exhibits, about how he wanted to be a paleontologist when he grew up. Rebecca listened, asked questions, seemed genuinely interested. And I sat there watching, feeling a mix of emotions I couldn't untangle. Relief that Tommy was opening up a little, fear that he might start to like her, jealousy that she could talk to him about James in ways I couldn't, anger that she thought 3 months of sobriety earned her the right to this. The visit ended. Tommy said goodbye, actually said the word goodbye to her, and we left. In the car, he was quiet. How are you feeling, buddy? I don't know, she's nice. But also, she's a stranger. It's weird. I know. Do you think she's really my mom? Like, does she feel like my mom to you? What do you mean? I mean, you feel like family. When I'm with you, I feel safe and loved and home. When I'm with her, I don't feel anything. She's just a person telling me stories. That might change. As you spend more time together. Do you want it to change? Dangerous question. I want you to be happy, however that looks. But if I start to like her, will you be sad? No, buddy. I'll be glad that you have more people in your life who love you. Even if she wants me to live with her. That's not going to happen. How do you know? Because the judge said you're staying with me, and because I won't let anyone take you away. But even as I said it, doubt gnawed at me. What if Rebecca kept doing well? What if she stayed sober, kept going to therapy, proved herself capable? What if, in 6 months, the judge decided that Tommy should spend time with both of us? Weeks with me, weeks with her. What if Tommy started to bond with her? Started to want more time with her? Could I fight that? Should I fight that? He was her son. Biologically, legally, she had rights, or would have rights. Once the court restored them, was I standing in the way of a child and his mother having a relationship, or was I protecting him from inevitable heartbreak? I didn't know anymore,